Well guys, it's finally time to start reassembling the front end of this old truck right here. And to do that, we have a toolbox full of parts. And when I say everything's getting replaced, I mean everything. Not quite though, because I decided to reuse a few things. And if you decide to reuse a few things, don't put that old nasty stuff up against these nice shiny new parts. Take the time to paint them, as you can see what I did here, and here, and here, and here as well. Also, another way to kind of decide what to do. These calipers are remans from AC Delco. Yes, from GM. I went ahead and took the time to paint them too. Why? Because it looks better up against all these shiny new parts. So yeah, don't put this nasty stuff up against them shiny new parts. Take the time to make them look good. Take the time to keep them up to date. And here's whatever we're going to throw away. Not quite though, since we're going to save on that funnel, and there's some steering linkage parts that I'm not going to throw away yet, because I'm going to show you why in a minute. However, this is a junk pile right here. First step of business is to get your steering box situation back into place. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to straighten this up to make it right on the money, as perfect as possible. Probably not going to get it 100% perfect. We're going to get it pretty darn close though. Here's what you do. Get you a vice grip. This is the part that goes to your pitman arm. This is the part that goes onto your steering column, and already it's leaking fluid all over my cardboard piece. Whatever, that's not the point. Here's what you do. It's sitting in the truck just like this, okay? Sitting in the truck like that. I already have it on straight, but I'm going to do it again just to show y'all. Here's what you do. Turn it all the way to the right. You're already to the right. Here's what you do. You kind of position it and remember where it was. 1, yeah, fluid all over my hand. 2, 3. Divide 3 by 2, what do you get? 1.5. Here's what you do. 1 here and a half. That's straight right there. Like you're pointing straight down the road. And what you do next is you get your pitman arm and put it on the bottom here. And I'm going to have to clean this again when I'm done because it's all squirting fluid all over my fan now. The installation video is going to be longer than the removal video for a good reason too. You might go ahead and say, hey, pitman arm. Yeah, it's the general shape, right? Well, let's open it and take a look. Yes, it looks exactly like a pitman arm. But let's take a look. No, that's not for a different truck, and it's not for the wrong part. This is not the pitman arm. This is the pitman arm. You see you got your little teeth in here? This is the pitman arm. Don't confuse a pitman arm with an idler arm. Pitman arm has teeth like that because it's guided onto here. And we're going to have to install it, and it only goes on one way apparently. I've never installed it before, but you know, I know enough to know that this is not a pitman arm. This is your pitman arm. We'll install that like so. It's going to go on just like that. And you get the bolt, and conveniently enough, it comes with a cotter pin and a Zerk fitting as well. You put those on also. Notice they got 2 different part numbers. I don't remember which one is which. You can look that up on your own if you want. But they got 2 different part numbers. Of course, they're going to be different. The idler arm and the pitman arm. So be careful and don't make that mistake. Early on, I left y'all guys a tip on here about your old hardware. Remember when I told you guys save everything that you get off of these things? Well, I lost the nut that goes onto the idler arm to hold it to the steering box. I mean the pitman arm, sorry. Well, let's take a look. If y'all could see that. I talked to my parts guy to see if I could buy a new one. He told me, nope, we don't have that. Good lesson for you guys out there that are trying to do jobs like this yourself. Save the old hardware. I cannot stress this enough. It saves you time, frustration, and money in some cases. Like you'd have to go to a salvage yard in some cases to get some of this stuff because they just don't sell it anymore. Top tip of the day, I cannot stress this enough. Save your old hardware. So here's how you do it. Put the washer first. Put the nut on. It's a lot more convenient to do it with an impact gun, and the size it takes, 33 millimeter. Okay, next thing to do, take your grease fitting, and this one takes a 9/32 wrench. First of all, you just put it with your hand like that. Just take the wrench and just kind of tighten it on there. Now these things are kind of delicate, so you don't really want to break them either. Just kind of tighten them like that until they kind of stop. Just don't break them. Next up you do is you take the steering box and put it back in the truck. You see this skid plate right here? Remember, we undid this so we can easily access where the steering box is located. And there's a few bolts right here. And there's a skid plate. There's the 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3. That's where your steering box is supposed to mount. And it goes in just like so. Hit your steering box, flip it over like it is in the truck, because basically it is going to be in the truck. Here's where your bolts go. There's 2 of them and there's one somewhere else on here. Ow, it's heavy. Take it, you put it in there. Put it all the way in there just like that, and make sure to adjust accordingly. What you're doing now is trying to line this steering box up with wherever it's supposed to be and get it to hold at least a couple of bolts where you can tighten them the rest of the way. It's a little tedious, but it should be fine once you get it in there. That's 1. That's 2. And that's 3. So next thing we're going to do is 1, 2, 3. I'm going to zip with the impact gun. You could do this with a regular ratchet, but it's just faster that way. And basically what you're doing is you're positioning the steering box and trying to catch one of the bolts to at least get it in. Once you get it in with one of the bolts, recommended the top one first because it makes it much easier that way. Once you get one bolt in, you shouldn't have a problem getting the other 2 in. It's mainly getting that one bolt to just grab onto the steering box. And in the meantime, let's just zip it on there. And for this top one, I'm just gonna do what I can here, because it's really hard to get the impact in there. Probably just going to use a wrench or something. No big deal. We was having a little difficulties putting the power steering box in, but it wasn't more putting the power steering box itself. It was more about the pitman arm. As you can see, this one doesn't really have play in the pitman arm. It's mostly the steering box that you hear right now, but the pitman arm that I had on there initially, it would go up and down, up and down, up and down easily. And to get it out, you can just pull it out with your bare hands. This one, you're going to need a puller to pull it out. And this is what you want right here. Really, really good fit. So, another tip of the day. Make sure you're buying quality parts and don't cheap out on stuff that's not going to fit. If you know it's not going to fit, get your stuff right the first time if you can help it. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is put your idler arm in. Mock up the idler arm assembly, which is kind of like your steering box, the way it's going to sit in the truck. And then just put the idler arm just like that. And do the same thing we did for the gearbox and the pitman arm. Putting in the pitman arm is like putting in the steering box, only easier because it's lighter. Here's what you do. You get your assembly, slide it up in here. And these bolts aren't really easy to get to exactly, because as you can see, they're recessed into the frame. You have to have a ratchet, a socket, and an extension to get to them. The bolts and nuts are 18 millimeters. And what we're going to do is we're going to hook it up this way. Usually it works best to use the top bolt. It usually works best to use the top bolt for reference. It's a little tricky for where the location is, but this is what you do. You get one arm assembly. You mock it up roughly what it's going to be like. Shove it in there. This doesn't screw in like the rest of them do. These just kind of go in. As you can see, it hung, and getting the rest of the bolts in, it's going to be much easier that way. This one in right now. Push it out and over. Push it back in with the socket, just like so. And the last one is going to be easy as cake. And now it's just a matter of tightening the nuts. Okay, so my phone died last night, so I couldn't really film anything else. The bolts are deep in there. There's 1, 2, and 3. They're kind of deep into the frame, and there's these 3 holes you get to them. And the nuts are back here. You just use a wrench and a ratchet and socket and extension to tighten them up. And here's how it should look if you've done it correctly. Okay, so the next thing to do is to get the center link put in. This is how you put it in. You get your center link. Obviously, I've painted it. You put it in this way. The indented part goes towards the engine. That's how you do it. Just put it up in there, just like so. for putting in the steering link, it only goes in one way, so you cannot mess it up whatsoever. See? It's kind of intended backwards towards the engine, as you can probably tell. Towards the engine over there, not towards the front. It's kind of indented backwards. And if you see, put it the other way around, it works, but it's indented towards the front. Let's see if you flip it over in the back, it's not going to go in, so you can't put a nut on it. So what you do is you put it in the right way. And this nut right here is a 21 millimeter, and that nut over there is a 24 millimeter. Actually 22 millimeter. The reason that is because I'm using the new nuts, and they came in different sizes for some reason. I don't know why. Next step I'm wanting to do is put the sway bar on. And before we do that, yes, we're using the sway bar and we're using the brackets, but we got some new bushings. We're going to put those on right now. Here's how you put them on. See, there's like a groove like that. Open it up and just kind of get it on there. Just push it on there. And as you can see, it's on there, and this usually fits on top of it. But that's what'll have to be on the truck. Okay, so the sway bar is in the truck right now. And you get your bracket. It can go in either way. It still won't hurt anything. Put it in under here. Make sure it's aligned in there. There's a little groove on top right here, and there's a little groove with it, the body of the truck. Put it in there, align it. Should go kind of in there like that. And you put your bracket, line it up with the holes, get you one bolt. It's helpful right now to kind of align it because I already have the other side done. We're going to get that taken care of here. All you really need is a couple of threads. I'm going to stop right here for now. Get the other bolt. Make sure it's lined up. A little challenging, but it'll be ready. Once it catches a couple of threads, it'll thread in all the way. That's all you should really focus on. And also, don't let it strip. So yeah, we're just gonna wind these all the way in and get back to you for the next step. Okay, now that we have the sway bar put in, now it's time to take care of the lower control arm. And bear with me here because we're going to also have to put the torsion bars in as well. Actually, we're going to have to do that first before we put the lower control arms in. So let's get into it. To give you a better idea of where this is located, crawl under here, come under here. You start off with putting the torsion bars in, obviously. This is the torsion key where the torsion bar goes in and sits. Torsion key slides in, up, and in like that. Make sure this little tiny spot goes above the adjustment screw. Don't worry how you get it or whatever, just make sure it hits the tip of that screw over there, way up in there. Anyway, after you do that, you make sure you bring your torsion bar from on top of this cross member right here, from over here. I'll demonstrate that right now. Okay, so this is the torsion bar right here. You slide it way from over there in the front of the truck all the way back here. And then you stuff your torsion key up here, and then you're good to go. And a few attempts later, it slid right in. Actually, if you get it at the right angle, it'll slide in very easily, the torsion bar into the torsion key. But you got to make sure that, as you can see here, the end of the torsion key is right at the screw over here, the adjustment screw. We did not touch these screws ever since we did anything to the front end, ever since I got the truck. So this should be okay in terms of adjustment. Now onto the lower control arm. Okay, now that you got your torsion bar in there, you see that was pretty easy, wasn't it? Okay, the control arm is even easier. It's pretty straightforward. You just kind of stuff it in there. But since you got the torsion bar, you got to angle it. And I did mark the torsion bar on the end of the torsion key. But those marks don't matter no more because we spray painted the control arm over here, as you can see. So the marks don't matter no more. What you do in that case, put it at the angle that it was roughly at. Because it's either awfully right or awfully wrong. So you'll be able to tell when it's wrong. So all you have to do is just slide it on there. And once you think you got it, you're in. And then, last but not least, you get your bolts. Okay? And keep in mind here, they're two different lengths. Tell you what's the difference. Let me show you. Look here. Alright? Oh. Okay, that's how you tell the different lengths. This is the longer bolt. Goes here, as you can see. And the shorter bolt, well, you know the drill. Okay, so here's the front bolt. This side facing to the front. You have a little washer right here. Stuff it just like that on the inside, as you can see right here. Fiddle with the control arm a little until you pop that out, and then what you do, basically, washer and the nut on top of it. Same thing goes for that side. Bolt, washer, nut, or no, washer, nut. There we go. Quick tip, if the bolt's being a little stubborn, if you still have this thing on, take one of the bolts out, slide it in there, and as you can see, it slid all the way in. And if you just need it to go in a little bit deeper, don't be afraid to use a good old hammer. As you can see, it already popped out. So now we can put the nut on there. Okay, now that we got our bolts in, we gotta tighten them. Cool thing is, the nut and the bolt, they're both 24 millimeter. So, let's get to it. Okay, as you can see, I barely held the wrench at all just to kind of hold it on, and I wasn't really squeezing on it much. It's because I have it leaning up against the torsion bar while I'm tightening it with the ratchet. As you can see, I can go as tight as I want, even though I can use this. And this will hold it for me, and that would save me so much energy and time as well. The next and final step in securing your lower control arms and the torsion suspension is to tighten up this bracket here on both sides. You just get the bolts and run them down. There's a nut that goes on top as well, and you just put them on in there. You see here you got the big bolts that are short. You got a little bolt, just one single little bolt that's long. The long one is a 15 and the short one is a 18. And here it is. Both lower control arms installed and the torsion bars installed on both sides. As you can see, it's not really that difficult if you put your mind to it. But the good news is, from here on out is easy stuff. Stay tuned for more. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, comment below, put some suggestions down there in the box. See if what you want us to do more of, or if you had any suggestions for this truck right here, leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see more content, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, take care. Have a great day.